Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to talk you through this slide that we've got here around facilitator attack. There's actually quite a lot in this diagram. It's a summary of a lot of information. So I'm just going to take you through it and give you a bit of a unpacking of it, I guess. You'll see it's divided into two parts. One is personal, so your personal response to being challenged or attacked as a facilitator. And the second part is the system response. So looking at the attack or the challenge as a dynamic in the system that you're working on. So we'll start with the personal. As a person that has been challenged as a facilitator, look, personally, it's never easy. I still struggle with it. It's hard. I don't like to think that I'm doing a bad job. And sometimes it's not even about the job that I'm doing, but there's a part of me that still feels that way. And that's one of the things that I know about myself. So things that we know about ourselves are really useful as facilitators. And so the best way you can prepare for potential attack or challenge, and it can come out of the blue, we never know where it's going to come from, is to get to know your own hooks and triggers in advance. That's the best preparation you can do. There's a sheet that we included in this called Knowing My Personal Hooks and Triggers. Really encourage you to do that. That's a good prep that you can do. And all of this is just information that you're holding about your own responses. You know, how am I likely to respond when I get attacked? What am I likely to do? All of that sort of thing just helps you have that knowledge. So that's the first piece, to do that exercise, so you just know it and you've got that information. The second thing you can do is what's called an earth spot exercise. And an earth spot exercise is a way of connecting to that oneness level that is underneath the different levels that we spoke about in the first in this workshop. And the way you do that is to think about the challenge, and imagine a place in nature that you love to go to. And in your mind, to go there and to just spend some time in that place in nature and just be there. So let's just say you're on top of a mountain, and it's a very particular mountain, you know it. To just go there in your mind and be in that place and look around and notice the qualities of that place. What is it about this particular place that you are drawn to? What do you love about this place? And let's take the mountaintop as an example. It might be that it's the vast open sky that I love. And what is it about that? It's the spaciousness. What does it make me feel? It makes me feel insignificant in the bigness of the universe and the world. It's a sense of openness. It might be a sense that I can see things from a distance. So I might take some notes down about that. Go, okay, that's what I love about that place. And just hold that in the back of your mind. And you can do that as an exercise, because you can then remind yourself, when it comes to challenging moments, how might I bring a sense of spaciousness, a sense of distance to my facilitation? How might I use that feeling in my body of openness? And it might be enough to just remember it. So by doing that exercise in advance, you can go, these are the qualities that I'm drawn to, and these are the qualities that I want to bring in my deepest essence self to my facilitation. And I know they're going to support me because I'm drawn to them. So you can just hold that in the back of your mind. So by doing that exercise in advance, that's something that you can just hold to. And the third one is the third way you can prepare is really about understanding the likely feedback or what the attack might be about. So this is a really good one to do if you've got a sense that it's coming. So it might be that you know a particular person in the group that you think is likely to maybe bring something up. Or it might be that there's a dynamic that's playing out in the group that you've been aware of, that you know, or it might be related to the topic that you're working on. And you go, I reckon we're going to get some pushback about this. Yeah. So what you can do in this case is to actually do a rehearsal and fantasize into what the attack might be. So essentially, you're rehearsing and role playing. It's really good in this case to, and I can't, people have an aversion to role play, but there is something very powerful, and it's currently being used in a lot of therapeutic work and has been for a while, around separating out roles. And so in this case, what you can do is go, okay, really dream into or fantasize the likely attack. What's the worst you think is going to happen? So it might be that you go, I think we're going to get pushback about this. Great. So get yourself another chair and imagine that firstly you're delivering, and then imagine what the attack might be. Then you're going to go put a chair there for the person that's attacking you. And then what I'd like you to do is actually go across to the other side and take the role of the person that's attacking you. So it might be that you go and start speaking from their voice. So in this case, it might be that I'm attacking you around this is all wrong. What you're doing here is wrong. And just get into the role and see what comes out. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you need. It might help for you to write this out, but I really encourage you to step over the edge and actually be in it, because you're going to get more information generally from being in it. But maybe it helps to write to start with, but then come to the role. And really step into it and just say all the things that you think they're going to say. And whilst you're doing that, take note of what they're saying. Have some paper, write it down. What do you think they're going to say? When you're saying those things, what does it feel like to be this person? What does it feel like in this role, looking back at you up there? And think about, from this role, what do I need? What do I need in this role? It might be that actually what do I want in saying this? It might be, I want to be seen. I want you to hear me. I don't feel like you are hearing me, and I really want you to see me and hear me. Write that information down, because that's going to be useful for you. The other part of this is, in this role, look at you as the facilitator. Look back at you as the facilitator. From this role, what do you notice about that? What do you see? It might be that when I'm in this role, I'm feeling resentment towards you, because actually, you know what? You've got no idea. There you are, you're getting paid for this. You're up there in that role and you're confident. You've got no idea what it's like to be down over here. And I'm going to put you in your place because you don't understand. Now that might be really useful feedback for you to know as a facilitator. Yeah. So part of it, if I'm to come back, take note of that, write it down. come back to that information and look at that and go, what can I do with this information? Part of it might be to go, wow, they're responding to my rank and my power. And it's because I'm not actually acknowledging it or being aware of it. And it might be really important for me to name that I actually don't know and they do about their experience. So I could use that by being preemptive if I go into that group and go, and I realize that there are going to be a lot of things that I don't know. And I can also appreciate that from this position, it's easy as a facilitator because I'm coming in, I'm coming from outside, and you're living it in this moment. It might be really important to name that as a facilitator. The other piece is picking up what that information that you'd written down about what they need. So it might be you wrote down that actually they need to be seen and heard. You might use that information to really attend to how you respond to people, whether they're attacking you or not. If you keep that information inside and go, they're wanting to be seen and heard, it might be that I become much more focused on that as a facilitator and go, well, I can really hear what you're saying. And I can hear the anguish where it comes from. And I just want to honor that or notice that or appreciate that and appreciate you bringing it in. So you can use this information as preparation for going in. And it's really helpful because you're stepping over into the other side and viewing yourself. And often we don't get that view. We don't realize that actually we're sending off a whole lot of signals that we're not aware of. But when you step into the role of the other person and look back, you can see quite differently some things. And so that's really useful to know. The other part is just on a really practical level when you get attacked is just some grounding strategies for yourself. So getting really pragmatic about it, getting challenged or attacked. And part of this is knowing your hooks and triggers and knowing how you're likely to respond. Are you one of those people that does the counterattack? Or are you one of the people that's like rabbit in the headlights, freezes? Or it might be that you actually just surrender and go with it. Give yourself some strategies to grab yourself a fraction of space when it happens. And it might be you can give yourself really practical strategies. Physical body strategies are really helpful here. Like, I'm going to take a breath when it happens. And in the period of that breath, I'm going to breathe in and I'm going to breathe the air and I'm going to breathe out and I'm going to breathe all the way down to my feet and I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. So you're just grounding yourself. And this is particularly useful to slow yourself down and slow your responses down. So it might be that I just breathe in and breathe out. Feel that breath go down to my feet. So just really practical body responses that you can use, tools that you can use, whatever works. If you have mindful practices that you use, but something physical like the breath is really good. That's on that everyday CR level. On the dreaming level, it's really good to have a figure, a champion, an internal champion in your mind to go, who has my back? Like it might be your partner. It might be a friend of yours. It might be an old teacher. It might be a figure in your family. It might be imaginary. It might be, a figure from a book or a movie that is just like super positive and, would really just be like, you go for this, you do it. But doesn't matter who it is, real, imagined, doesn't make a difference. But the fact that they're there, and it just means that in that moment, you can, if you can, access that and imagine them going, you can do this, you can do it. So you've got a grounding strategy, you've got a figure in your mind that's supportive that you can hopefully access. And the last piece is to come back to your prep work and imagine the earth spot. For me, in that moment, it might be that I go, and for a moment, whilst I'm taking the breath and breathing in, I close my eyes for a moment, and you can do this in a group. You'd be surprised. It gives the group space as well. And it might be that I just picture that panorama at the top of that mountain and that spaciousness. And it's like I'm breathing in those qualities. How might I be spacious in this interaction? So there's some personal strategies that you can use both before and during challenge or attack as a facilitator. Okay, so we're going to switch now to, that was the personal individual response, and now we're going to switch over to the other side, which is the system response. So the system response in this is to remember that what you're experiencing in this moment is meaningful to the group system. So if you've done all that work, then you might go, on a systemic level, what are the energies I'm feeling in my body right now? It might be that when this happens, when this interaction happens, actually I'm feeling really deflated. And I know that it's not just me because I've done my inner work and my prep, but I'm really noticing this feeling of deflation. If you notice that internally, you can then look around the group. So I'm just noticing it internally, but if I look around the group, and let's just say I notice it in the body language of some other people in the group, where there's kind of slouching or a breathing out or something that also mirrors that deflation, then I can go, there's something meaningful about this, and I can bring it in. So it might be in that moment. So you get curious, and this is where curiosity is your biggest asset when you're getting attacked. If you come back to curiosity, you'll always have something. It will get you through. Curiosity in the role of the learner. So it might be that you just get curious about that in the group, noticing a sense of deflation. Does anybody else notice that in the group? What might that mean for this particular issue? And just put it back to the group and see what happens. The other thing is to reflect on your role in the context of the group. So it might be that you're part of, or that you're being seen. You think you're neutral, but you're actually on staff and you're facilitating something on staff, and therefore you're seen as part of management or part of some other process that is relevant to the dynamics playing out. It might be about you in the role. And it might be the reaction might not be about you personally, it might be about the role of management. So really testing that out is really important with a group. If you're unsure, you can just get curious about it. And if you are truly curious, you'll be surprised what groups let you get away with. So it might be that you go, wow, I'm noticing there's a lot of pushback around this. Is this about what I'm doing right now? Or is this around what's happening, or is this in relation to the role of leadership in this organisation. You can bring it in. Get curious in whatever way that you that feels relevant to the scenario. And watch for feedback. So you're always just bringing in an intervention. Doesn't matter if it works or it doesn't, as long as you respond to the feedback. If you notice that there's energy around it, it might be like, no. But if that's positive energy, so you know there's something in that. Or it might be that people go, that's not so positive energy, and you go, okay, I'm barking up the wrong tree there. But be curious about it. That's gonna help. Then you kind of remember the different levels of experience. So if we remember those different levels on that kind of CR, consensus reality everyday level, what's the feedback you're getting from the opponent or the challenger? What are they actually saying? Yeah, are they accusing you of something? And if they are, there's this notion in process work of what's called picking up the 1%. And what that is that in any relational dynamic where there is an accusation towards you, that even if 99% of it is completely wrong, you pick up the 1%, that there's 1% of truth in there. So if there's an accusation, remember the 1%. What could be the 1%? And it's hard sometimes, but what could be the 1%? And what that does is it creates an opening for exchange in relationship. Otherwise, if you're just completely blocking something, there's no negotiation and people feel like they've got nowhere to go. Whereas if somebody's really accusing you of something, if you can pick up the 1% before you get defensive, it's going to create an opening to get underneath it and find out what it's really about. On the dreaming level, what's the energy that's around? You know, it might be not about what the person's saying. It might be actually about an energy that's required for the system. And that might be that this person's coming in and they're being, in their critical way, they're being incredibly precise and pointed. And actually, in the system, it's really wishy-washy. And what the system needs is something to be really pointed and precise. And so actually going, wow, you're being really pointed and precise. I really love how exact you are. Might be really necessary and really needed for the group. And this is just the way it's come out. So that might be something. So really paying attention to the energy that's coming out and depersonalizing it and just looking at how is this energy meaningful for the system, or what's happening, or what we're talking about. And the last one is around when you really get knocked out as a facilitator. Sometimes it's actually necessary for that role to be knocked out. And that is what needs to happen. And so actually holding that in the back of your mind as a facilitator and going, does this role need to get knocked out and taken over? Actually, is this what's really necessary here? Because it might be that it is. And resisting that is going to cause problems. So actually, if you go, I think actually this might be necessary, you can communicate that to the group and go, so bring it in with awareness. This is the key, bringing it in with awareness to say, wow, I'm feeling like maybe in this moment, me in this role isn't necessary. So I'm going to step out of this role as the facilitator for a moment and hand it over. And I'm going to step into the role of the learner because I feel like you've got some things to teach me right now. Actually really congruently doing that, and watching for feedback might be what's needed in the system. And it doesn't mean that you just hand it over and just negate your responsibilities, because ultimately you are responsible for holding the group. But in the moment, that might be what's necessary to actually, for example, honor the leadership that's in the group, honor the knowledge that's in the group, and go, wow, I'm going to step into the learner role. I can take this off. I can take this hat off and step into the learner role. And again, the value of curiosity and learning being vital when you're under attack. And then see what happens. If it all falls down, then you know that it's not, okay, I need to step back in and hold this space. But if there's relief in the group for that, notice it and name it. Hopefully this has given you some extra things to think about or tools to have when thinking about leadership attack or facilitator attack. And when I say attack, that's quite dramatic, isn't it? Sometimes it really does look like that. Sometimes it's just being challenged or being criticised in that role, and giving yourself some tools for being able to use it for the benefit of the groups you're working with. Okay, thanks.